Welcome into the Monday edition of the Bombers Beat podcast, and there is a lot to go over. From the Yankees getting swept over the weekend by the Boston Red Sox to the Red Sox immediately turning around on Sunday night and trading superstar DH Rafael Devers to the San Francisco Giants for a probably underwhelming haul, but the Giants taking on the entirety of Rafael Devers' monster contract. We'll end with the Devers stuff because that's not directly tied to the Yankees. Let's start with the series, and I'm intentionally recording this a few hours after the final out of Game 3. Yankees lose 2-0. They lost 3 games in this series by a combined 4 runs, but it was just a disappointing weekend, and I wanted to wait a little bit before recording this because your initial reaction is to be angry, it's to be pissed off, is to think of all of the times the Yankees were caught sleeping on the bases, thinking about Aaron Judge striking out in pretty much every at-bat that wasn't the game-tying home run in the game they lose in extra innings. You think about just lackluster performances across the board. You think about some of the questionable calls that all seem to go against the Yankees in this series, whether they were on replay or not. It was just an incredibly frustrating weekend, and I wanted to put this in, at least try to put this into some perspective, at least for me. And I hope that we can talk about the context of it still being in the middle of June, the Yankees still having a multi-game lead atop the division, and understand that this is not a situation where, despite the urge to really, really want to be angry, to start calling for everybody to be fired, to start calling for lineup changes, to start saying that this guy sucks or that guy sucks, this guy can't play, that guy can't play. You're going to lose some games. You're going to get swept sometimes. The Yankees were swept, I believe, 4 times last year before the All-Star break, and obviously they went to the World Series. Not that I wanted them to be swept, not that it is good to be swept, not that I don't have concerns that stem from this run. And again, it's not just this. It is the last 6 games that they have played recently against Boston, where they lost their last 2. So you lose 2 of 3 in that first series at home. Then you sweep the Royals, you're feeling good, and then you get swept. And so you now lost 5 of 6 against Boston in the last week and a half. And it's just... It's frustrating because the Yankees have really struggled against the AL East, particularly compared to the rest of the schedule. They're multiple games under 500 against the East. They have the worst record among teams in the AL East against other AL East teams. And what that has done is it has pushed them into a situation where right now they're only 3.5 games up in the division, where I feel like they should have been. Maybe not the Detroit situation where they're sitting 9 games clear of everybody else in the AL Central, but the Yankees should have been in a spot where they were 7-8 games up now. And instead, they're kind of allowing some of these teams, including Boston, although we will talk about whether Boston should be included in this stretch toward the end of the show, back into the conversation. And, now, you had big leads, and now all of a sudden, again, you've still won 60% of your games this year. You still have the second best record in the American League, and you have the 4th best record in baseball. So it's not, it's not like you're panicking, but you've allowed teams to crawl back in when you and just aren't winning games in your division. I think I want to place this series in this context, and I want to look at it as there are some holes that this team needs to shore up. And I think when they've played Boston, and I would date this back to last year too in particular, and you got to give Cora and his staff a lot of credit. When they play the Yankees, they seem to, I don't want to say they have their number per se, although you could say that. They are, I think having your number sometimes constitutes luck. I don't think this is a luck thing. The Red Sox seem to have a very good gauge on what the Yankees can and can't do and exploit it very well, particularly on the margins. And if you just watch how both teams worked, for lack of a better phrase, operated is probably the right phrase, on the base paths in this series and pretty much each of the last couple of seasons, you've seen the Red Sox have a major, major advantage there on both sides, particularly not just on what they do as an offense on the base paths, but how they prevent runs for the Yankees when they are on the base paths. And I don't think it's a shocker that when the Yankees have played Boston is when they make some of their most frustrating errors or frustrating issues on the bases. And the Red Sox have, whether it was the Steel Fest last season, when they realized that they had an advantage on pretty much all of the Yankees pitchers, and whether it was Trevino behind the plate or Wells. I believe it was Trevino that game where they stole all those bases. They seem to have a really good gauge on how to beat the New York Yankees in all facets of the game. How to pitch to them, how to handle them on the bases, how they need to handle themselves on the bases. Because you look at this series, the Yankees gave up 8 runs total in 3 games. That also features an extra innings run. So if you take off the extra inning, the Manfred Ghost runner, you give up 9 runs in 3 games. It's not like the Yankees got blown out. It's not like the pitching staff was poor and couldn't get outs. It was the offense that was bad here. Because you scored 4 runs in 3 games. None on Sunday. You scored 5 runs in the last 4 games. It's a little concerning. I understood why, look, you're going to have games like you had against the Royals. And I even understand, getting just the 1 run in the opener, the travel, you got in late, that can happen. But, the offensive lacklusterness, for lack of a better phrase, on Saturday and Sunday, pretty inexcusable. And now you have you get to come back home at least. You have a 7-game homestand, 4 against the Angels, 3 against the Orioles. In the mix there, you have 3 early games in that, which is very interesting, including on Sunday. They have an 11:35 a.m. start time on Sunday against the Orioles. But I want to flush this. I don't want to flush the series because I feel like you say that when just everything goes wrong. Everything didn't go wrong. There were very specific issues that happened with this team and issues that we have seen before that can be fixed. But I want to flush it in the sense of I am not panicking. And that is why I wanted to take some extra hours between the end of the game and this. And I'm glad I did, because obviously we had the bomb drop of the Rafael Devers trade, so we can talk about that as well and how that affects the Red Sox. And his tenure in Boston ends. His last at-bat as a Red Sox is a home run off of Max Fried. But I would say let's see how they respond back at home here. And I think this is a scenario where you really, I think 4-3 is a minimum. I think you want to go 5-2 in this stretch here before you head back out on the road. And to me, I want to see this offense wake up more. And I think you're going to see Giancarlo Stanton very soon. If not Monday, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. He was not activated for this series, but it's inevitable. And the Yankees need some pop in their lineup right now, and I think adding another big-time right-handed hitter to allow Boone to switch up this lineup a little bit and make it a little bit more different than it has been lately could help. But I want to just kind of calm everybody down a little bit here, just because I I know how I want to react, but I also look at the calendar, and I also look at the standings, and I also look at it in the context of everything that has happened so far this year, and the context of everything that happened last year. I want to take a step back, take a deep breath, and go, I am noting what happened. I am raising an eyebrow at what happened over the weekend. I'm not panicking yet. And I think this is, we have seen some, there's only so many pivotal moments you can have in the first half of the season, realistically, especially when you're a team that is always in playoff contention, even when you're not that good, like the Yankees are. But I think this is a pivotal homestand against the Angels and the Orioles. And why I say that is this will be the homestand, in my mind, that determines whether or not you get your mojo back and start building on your lead in the American League East heading into the All-Star break. Now, obviously, you have some time between this and the All-Star break. You still, even after the homestand, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 series left before you head to the All-Star break. But to me, this is one of those ones where you go 3-4, or even, God forbid, worse than that. You're now all of a sudden, you're just another team in the AL East. And I feel like that's going to kind of be the run that you're on for most of the second half of the season. If you're just going to now, you're just another team at the AL East, and you're going to be going back and forth, with whether it's the Rays, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, who's ever up there. If you're able to, let's say, go 5-2 or 6-1, you can reestablish yourself as, okay, we're the clear front runners here. We're clearly building a lead, and we're going to continue to keep a full extended arm's length between us and everybody else in the American League East. And I think that's going to be what gets determined in this series. Even though you're not playing one of those teams, that will be what will be determined in this series. So we will cover it all here on the Bombers Beat podcast and see. But just need better offense in this homestand, and hopefully they will get it. 7:05 p.m. Eastern start time here on Monday against the Angels. Clark Schmidt versus Jose Soriano. But let's end this podcast talking a little bit about the Rafael Devers trade. Obviously, that was the monster news that dropped, and apparently, this was not a case of Devers demanding a trade. This was really a situation for it's amazing, and it's a situation that I have thought, obviously we don't talk a lot about the Red Sox on here. This is a Yankees podcast, but that relationship between Devers and the front office, this new front office regime in Boston, has been completely fractured for months now. Did not appear that it was getting any better. And I had talked to, I have a good friend of mine that is a Red Sox fan, and he and I, we talk every day normally, but we're talking a lot this weekend for obvious reasons. Not as fun on my end as it normally would have been, but we had talked about the season, and I was convinced that Devers was going to get traded at some point. The fact that the animosity and the talking points and how public of nature this all has become has carried over not only from spring training, but carried over to the regular season, especially once Bregman got hurt. I had a feeling that this relationship was irreparable, and it turned out to be the case. And, the Red Sox trade Rafael Devers and his entire remaining contract. He's got 8.5 years left on his deal. And they acquire starting pitcher Kyle Harrison, pitcher Jordan Hicks, number 4 prospect for the San Francisco Giants, James Tibbs III, prospect I like, and prospect Jose Bello, a pitcher. So it is not a big haul for Boston. You get a couple major league arms, and I think that's what they are. They're just major league arms. I don't think they're difference makers. I like the prospect you get in James Tibbs. He's somebody that might be able to make a debut next season, but he's still probably 1 or 2 years away from him being a guy that you'll see in Major League Baseball. But a lefty bat that's got a little bit of pop should be profiles as a potentially above average hitting outfielder. But it's it's a massive, massive trade, and it's crazy to see this move kind of happen out of nowhere the way that it did. And I don't. Here's the thing. I understand what Boston is doing in terms of Craig Breslow has a vision for what he wants his team to be, and he is not deviating from that vision. And you could say a lot of the moves he has made on the periphery, including the one that I know Yankees fans are really mad at. We even have time to get into it because the Devers stuff, the Carlos Narvaez trade, have worked out pretty well for Boston. But this is one that is heartbreaking for their fans, and obviously one that the Yankees fans are very proud of. I cannot tell you how excited I am to not play Rafael Devers as much, and not see him hit a home run off of the Yankees and Garrett Cole every 3 seconds, it feels like, whenever they play him. It also opens up the question about where the Red Sox are going to be in terms of, they kind of got themselves back into the conversation with the sweep over the Yankees this weekend. Does this trade take them right back out of it? It's a crazy deal, and I don't know what to say other than from a Yankees perspective, thank goodness he's out of the division. From a Boston perspective, I'm not surprised that this trade happens right before the Red Sox basically go on a 2-week road trip. They will not be back in Boston for, I believe, 11 or 12 days now, and they will actually play Rafael Devers over the weekend. So I'm sure that Friday night game in San Francisco is going to get a lot of attention nationally. I'll be tuned in to see what that looks like, but I'm a little stunned because of the timing, because it feels random out of nowhere. You don't see trades of this caliber happen in mid-June like this, but I'm not surprised that this happened. Do I think it's the right move? No. I would side on the, you have a superstar player that is in the early stages of a 10-year deal. Do what you can to accommodate that player who is still performing at a massively high level. But I'm not surprised that they didn't, just given how messy and how publicly messy this was. But we will see what the fallout is, but more importantly, we'll see what the fallout is for the Yankees after getting swept over the weekend. Will they bounce back against the Angels in this 4-game series at Yankee Stadium? We will find out, and we will have it all covered right here.